Very good morning and welcome to Breakfast News. In the next 1 hour, we'll get you all the latest news and updates. President Ramnath Kovind will preside over the 51st Conference of Governors and Lieutenant Governors today. Detailed story on that. We'll talk about the cabinet decisions also. COVID-19 vaccination has crossed 110 crore mark. And in sports also, New Zealand has beaten England to reach the finals of the T20 World Cup. All of that and much more. My name is Abhishek Mahajan and with me is my colleague Rukma. Good morning, Rukma.
A very good morning to you, Abhishek. And as Abhishek said, for news that shapes your day, a very warm welcome to all of you in this edition of Breakfast News. And over the next 1 hour, we'll be taking you through all the top stories, making headlines, all the latest developments on news from across the world, across India, and much, much more. The President's meeting with governors, lieutenant governors. Also, rains continue in Tamil Nadu. We'll be taking stock of that with our reporter on the ground. Even as the COVID vaccination coverage continues to expand apace, also Chhat Puja celebrations conclude today. Yeah. Well, all that in the next 60 minutes, but first the headlines.
President Ramnath Kovind will preside over 51st Conference of Governors and Lieutenant Governors today at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Vice President, Prime Minister and Home Minister will also address the conference.
Heads of National Security Councils of 7 nations for regional security dialogue on Afghanistan call on Prime Minister Modi. PM emphasizes on addressing the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan and the need for an inclusive government. Also, zero tolerance on Afghan territory being used by terrorist groups.
Tamil Nadu facing intense spell of rain due to depression in the Bay of Bengal. State police stepping up preparations to counter it. 75,000 officers assigned for flood relief measures across the state.
Cabinet approves November 15th as Janjagaurav Divas. Day is birth anniversary of tribal freedom fighter and social reformer Birsa Munda. Also clears 17,408 crore rupees financial assistance to Cotton Commission of India for last 7 years. Move will benefit 60 lakh farmers.
The US becomes the 101st member of the International Solar Alliance. Biden climate envoy John Kerry says US is happy to join alliance set up by PM Modi. Prime Minister thanked US President and wholeheartedly welcomed USA to the International Solar Alliance.
In a surprise announcement at COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow, United States and China agree to boost climate cooperation. Over the next decade, the two countries released rare joint declaration promising action.
4-day-long celebrations of Chhat Puja concluded this morning with devotees paying oblation to the rising sun in different parts of the country.
And in sports, in T20 ICC World Cup, New Zealand storm into the finals for the first time, defeat England by 5 wickets. Australia to face Pakistan in second semi-final today.
Right, so those were the headlines. We'll start with our national segment, our top story.
Well, in our top story, as we were telling you, President Ramnath Kovind will preside over the 51st Conference of Governors and Lieutenant Governors today at Rashtrapati Bhavan. This will be the 4th conference to be presided over by the President. Apart from governors and lieutenant governors of all states and union territories, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Home Minister Amit Shah will also address the conference. So, President to address and also a very high-level conference scheduled for today. All eyes on that. Governors and lieutenant governors of all states and union territories to attend. This is the fourth such conference that the President will be presiding over. Also, well, we'll have to take stock of what are the likely issues that are to come up for discussion. Other dignitaries to also attend.
Absolutely. President Ramnath Kovind will chair the conference of governors and lieutenant governors today, and it will start around 9:40 a.m. and like you said, Rukma, deliberations over important issues related to the states and also the union territory, and the coordination also. The conference is likely to discuss some of the key issues and the policies also.
And we are trying to get in touch with our correspondent to get to know more as far as details about the conference today are concerned, and Vice President Venkaiah Naidu to also attend it, as well as other senior
Prime Minister Narendra
union.
Modi is also he'll also address the conference, and Governors Conference is basically his extra constitutional device for securing cooperation and coordination between the states. And President Ramnath Kovind, like we said earlier, will chair the 51st conference. Our correspondent Arun Sharma is joining us. He has more information on this. Arun, deliberation over important issues related to the states and union territories, basically the coordination, and the conference is likely to discuss some of the key issues and the policies?
Absolutely. So it's a significant, conference, primarily the governors conference, whereby the governors and the LGs of various states and union territories are going to participate. Now, important aspect is that, number one, the best practices of various states will be discussed as far as this governors conference is concerned. We know this fact that is chairing this entire conference for the fourth time, and of course, key issue. Now we know this fact that in this new decade, what are the challenges that India faces? What more needs to be done in this new decade that is likely to come up in this governors conference? That's number one. Number two, as far as the best practices of the specific states are concerned, on various parameters, on various indicators, primarily that will be coming up on the agenda as far as this meeting is concerned. Now, vaccination is the key issue, and we know this fact that. At all the national level conferences, and of course in this governors conferences as well, the issue of the vaccination drive is likely to come up as far as this governors conference is concerned. Earlier also we saw that in earlier governors conference, the issue of national education policy or the NEP primarily did dominate the agenda or the conference. At this time around, when we talk about the vaccination drive, the current trending point in the nation that is likely to come up as to how can various states can increase their vaccination coverage going forward, and of course how can one state or the union territory can learn from other states, because we know this fact that states like Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Goa for that matter, some of the northeastern states in our country, Daman and Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, all these states and UPs primarily have done a fantastic job or achieving 100% coverage as far as vaccination is concerned, as far as first dose is concerned. So vaccination coverage is likely to come up in this meet. Second important aspect that how of course going forward, one state can learn from another, and of course Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be presiding this meeting. So an important meeting as far as governors conference is concerned. Right from 1949 we have seen that how this governors conference has discussed various important and significant issues in this governors conference, and this is the fourth conference being presided by Ramnath Kovind, the president, and of course Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu are also going to preside in this important meeting.
Well, the presence of the Home Minister there, could security also feature and also various issues of regional security in particular?
Well, so yes, various issues will be discussed, but what we have seen in last many years that the current issues are really trending, or the trending topics or the trending issues in the nation are primarily discussed as far as this governors conference is concerned. Last time around, we saw that national education policy was being discussed, and how can the education policy, the infrastructure of the current education policy, can it be replicated to another state? That was the topic that was discussed. This time around, we know this fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has already given a clarion call that how by 2047, when India completes its 100th Independence Day? What big goals or achievements can we, highlight or can we achieve? That topics, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has highlighted on various platforms. Even President Ramnath Kovind has highlighted this point that yes, national security is of prime importance. Yeah. But on top of that, we know this fact that there are various current issues like COVID vaccination drive, number one. Number two, how can India, can achieve big targets or big goals when it achieves its 100th independence year in 2047? So how can states and UTs primarily gear up to achieve those big goals and big achievements can be achieved? How can big commitments can be done in this year 2021 so that by 2047 when India reaches the 100th independent year, at that time we can achieve big goals like poverty alleviation, providing social security to all. How can various government initiatives that is being rolled out by the central government, how can that reach to the far-flung areas, to each and every person of our country? How can there be a better state and center coordination? How can the governors play an important role in ensuring that the central policies, the central initiatives, all the social security measures are being reaching to all the states and UTs and specifically in the far-flung areas at the booth level as well? So yes, what important role can governors play in this context? So yes, vaccination coverage or increasing the vaccination coverage is likely to dominate as far as this governors conference is concerned. And apart from that, by 2047, what big goals can be achieved when India completes 100th independence year? So all these topics are likely to dominate, and of course, this fact that Home Minister Amit Shah, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi are also going to be presiding in this meeting, and of course, it's a significant and very crucial governance conference.
Absolutely important current issues will be discussed, and this will be the fourth conference to be presided over by the President Ramnath Kovind. Thank you, Arun. Thank you for giving us your vital inputs.
And a time to move on to other news stories.
The heads of the National Security Councils of 7 nations in Delhi for the Regional Security Dialogue on Afghanistan, hosted by National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, collectively called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi after the completion of the dialogue. Prime Minister emphasized 4 aspects that countries in the region would need to focus on in the context of Afghanistan: the need for an inclusive government, a zero-tolerance stance about Afghan territory being used by terrorist groups, a strategy to counter trafficking of drugs and arms from Afghanistan, and addressing the increasingly critical humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Prime Minister also expressed the hope that the regional security dialogue would work to revive Central Asia's traditions of moderation and progressive culture and counter extremist tendencies. Prime Minister appreciated the participation of the senior dignitaries in Delhi security dialogue despite the challenges posed by the pandemic.
And the Union Cabinet has approved the declaration of 15th of November as Janjagaurav Divas. It is the birth anniversary of Birsa Munda. There will be week-long celebrations from the 15th of November to the 22nd of November to celebrate and commemorate the glorious history of the tribal people, culture and achievements. The Cabinet also approved restoration and continuation of Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme, 5 crore rupees per annum per Member of Parliament for financial years 2022 to 23 to 2025 to 26 was declared. Here are the details.
The Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the declaration of 15th November as Janjagaurav Divas, dedicated to the memory of brave tribal freedom fighters. The date is the birth anniversary of Birsa Munda, a tall tribal leader and freedom fighter.
भारतीय इतिहास और संस्कृति में जनजातियों का विशेष स्थान और उनके योगदान को सम्मानित करने के लिए और आने वाली पीढ़ियों को इस सांस्कृतिक विरासत और राष्ट्रीय गौरव के संरक्षण के लिए प्रेरित करने के उद्देश्य से 15 नवंबर को जनजातीय गौरव दिवस घोषित करने का निर्णय लिया गया है। भारत के स्वतंत्रता संग्राम में भी जनजातियों का बहुत महत्वपूर्ण योगदान रहा। भारत सरकार 15 नवंबर से 22 नवंबर तक जनजातीय समुदाय के गौरवशाली इतिहास और उनकी उपलब्धियों, संस्कृति और आजादी की लड़ाई में उनकी योगदान की महत्ता पर एक सप्ताह पूरा 15 से 22 नवंबर तक एक सप्ताह कार्यक्रम आयोजित करने जा रही है।
Birsa Munda fought bravely against the exploitative British colonial rule and spearheaded a movement against British oppression, giving a call for Ul-Gulan or revolution. The cabinet also approved committed price support of 17,408 crore rupees to Cotton Corporation of India (CCI) as the corporation clears its previous dues. This will help over 60 lakh farmers who are directly engaged in the cotton industry.
कपास के क्षेत्र में लगभग 60 लाख किसान सीधे तौर पर जुड़े हुए हैं और जो पिछले 2 वर्ष से कोविड के समय जहां एक और कपास का मूल्य कम था बाजार में, वहां पर बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हो गया था कि सरकार की इंटरवेंशन भी हो।
Decisions were also taken regarding the second cash crop of jute. The cabinet approved reservation norms for jute packaging materials for jute year 2021-22, that is July 1st this year to June 30th next year, under JPM Act 1987. Accordingly, 100% food grains and 20% of sugar is to be packed in jute bags. This will help over 40 lakh farmers and 3.7 lakh jute mill workers involved in the jute industry. Further, the cabinet also approved mechanism for procurement of ethanol by public sector oil marketing companies under ethanol blended petrol program.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के निर्देशानुसार अब वर्ष 2025 तक 20% ब्लेंडिंग प्राप्त करने का महत्वाकांक्षी लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया गया है। पहले लक्ष्य 2030 तक था, अब 2030 तक के लक्ष्य को भी प्रीपोन करके 2025 तक किया गया है।
Talking about India's robust economic recovery post-pandemic across sectors, the cabinet approved restoration and continuation of Member of Parliament Local Area Development MP LAD scheme. An amount of 2 crore rupees per MP will be given in one installment for the remaining period of the current financial year and 5 crore rupees in 2 installments during the financial years 2022-23 to 2025-26. With Rajesh Raj, DD India.
And with Tamil Nadu facing an intense spell of rain due to depression in the Bay of Bengal, the state police is stepping up preparations to counter it. State DGP Shailendra Babu said 75,000 officers have been assigned for flood relief measures across the state. In a statement, he said about 250 state disaster rescue force personnel were ready with rescue fiber boats, handheld saws and wall drilling machines. Teams comprising at least 350 coastal security guards, CID police with kayaks, 250 special task force personnel and 364 personnel from the disaster rescue section of the Tamil Nadu Home Guards were on standby.
So flood situation, flood-like situation there in Tamil Nadu in a number of areas across the state. Philip Matthews joins us on the phone line. Philip, a sense of the ground situation right now. What is the weather like? An update on that as well.
Well, I can tell you that since last night, the intensity of the rains has certainly picked up. And here in Chennai, the wind speeds are now touching somewhere close to 45 kilometers an hour. So it is a little windy, and the rain intensity has really gone up overnight. It's been almost a continuous spell since then, and we're getting reports that anywhere between 12 to 17 centimeters of rain are being reported from various parts of the city. So I think after Sunday's downpour, this seems to be the second spell that the city is facing, and we are getting reports of waterlogging in many areas, especially the low-lying parts of the city.
And also,
And also we believe that relief and rescue operations are continuing and in full swing. Police are very involved in that. Also give us a sense of how the NDRF, SDRF, how are they positioned? What are the kind of challenges they're facing?
Well, the information we have been given is that something like 12 NDRF teams are in position in various parts of the state, including places like Madurai, Tiruvallur, and of course Chennai. And they are on standby with necessary equipment, including inflatable boats and saw cutters and other equipment to clear the roads and to ensure that people can be rescued in case they are marooned due to high water. Apart from that, of course, the electricity department and the health department are also on full alert to ensure that power supply is restored in case of any disruption due to the ongoing rain. The health department, of course, is conducting mobile camps in the worst hit areas so that there is no outbreak of any infection. Mobile vans are going around different parts of the city as well as other districts to ensure that any threat of a disease outbreak is quickly brought under control.
And Philip, also like you mentioned, police, fire and rescue services and also the NDRF, they have been all put on alert, geared up for the contingency. Can you tell us the districts that have been issued the red alert?
Well, at the moment the red alert is for the northern coastal districts. That includes Chennai, Tiruvallur, Chengalpet, Kanchipuram and other districts. But the depression is likely to cross somewhere between Karaikal and Sriharikota, somewhere close to Puducherry by this evening. So we will have to wait for further updates. But the weather pattern and the alert issued by the IMD could well change over the next few hours.
Right, and several international flights have also been cancelled or rescheduled at the Chennai airport. Thank you, Philip, for giving us your vital inputs.
Moving on now, the United States has become the 101st member of the International Solar Alliance. Biden's climate envoy John Kerry says the United States is happy to join the alliance set up by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav said this move will strengthen the ISA and propel future action on clean energy.
In a big boost to accelerate global adoption of solar energy, the United States of America, USA, has become the 101st country to join the International Solar Alliance, ISA, to catalyze global energy transition through a solar-led approach. Signing the framework agreement, US Special Presidential Envoy for Climate John Kerry said, "It has long been coming and we are happy to join the International Solar Alliance, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi took the lead in making. This will be an important contribution to more rapid deployment of solar energy globally." India, in turn, welcomed the USA as the 101st member of the ISA. Union Cabinet Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change Bhupendra Yadav said this move will strengthen the ISA and propel future action on providing a clean source of energy to the world. Earlier at COP26, the United States also joined the steering committee of the Green Grid Initiative, One Sun, One World, One Grid, comprising of 5 members, the USA, Australia, France, the United Kingdom and India, and endorsed the One Sun Declaration along with 80 countries. Didi India.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has thanked President of the United States and wholeheartedly welcomed the USA to the International Solar Alliance. He said that this will further strengthen the alliance in our shared quest of harnessing solar energy for a sustainable planet.
And Union Minister for Science and Technology Dr. Jitendra Singh addressed the Mission Innovation Initiative at COP26. He highlighted the Indo-Dutch effort of integrated biorefineries to scale up clean energy solutions at affordable costs. Mission Innovation is actively engaged in scaling up clean energy solutions.
India has called for a commitment from the global clean energy community for access to sustainable fuels, chemicals and materials to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and achieve global climate goals as one of the mitigation measures. Addressing the Mission Innovation Initiative at COP26 on Tuesday, Union Minister for Science and Technology Dr. Jitendra Singh drew attention to the efforts made by India and the Netherlands along with Mission Innovation members in taking forward the Mission Innovation 2.0. The two nations launched mission integrated biorefineries to scale up clean energy solutions at an affordable cost.
India with the Netherlands aims to leverage its extensive experience in research and innovation, support for the startup ecosystem, international collaborations through the launch of mission integrated biorefineries. The mission integrated biorefineries brings together a dynamic and a delivery-focused alliance of countries, the private sector, the research institutes, and the civil society to accelerate innovation in renewable fuels, chemicals, and materials for a low-carbon future.
22 governments and the European Commission, collaborating through Mission Innovation, announced 4 groundbreaking missions to catalyze investment and action to make the clean energy technologies which will decarbonize sectors. Mission Integrated Biorefineries is one among them. The missions announced by ministers from the US, India, Saudi Arabia, Canada, Australia, Austria, the Netherlands and the European Commission will accelerate technologies to facilitate urban transitions, enable carbon dioxide removal and produce renewable fuels, chemicals and materials. Combined with 3 missions first announced in June 2021 on power systems, hydrogen and shipping, they have the potential to unlock affordable decarbonization pathways for sectors responsible for 52% of the current global emissions. This will accelerate progress towards the Paris Agreement goals and pathways to net zero. On Wednesday at COP26, global auto players including ministers, vehicle manufacturers and business leaders have gathered to show their commitment to a zero-emission road transport future by 2040 or earlier. Transport Day at COP26 will also try to secure commitments on lowering emissions in aviation and shipping. A shift to zero-emission vehicles is already underway, creating new jobs, bringing cleaner air to cities and increasingly cutting the costs of car ownership. To meet the goals of the Paris Agreement, this transition needs to happen much more quickly. It must include not only cars, but vans, buses, trucks and lorries. India.
The United States and China have agreed to boost climate cooperation over the next decade in a surprise announcement at the COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow. The two countries released a rare joint declaration promising action. It says both sides will recall their firm commitment to work together to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature goal set out in the Paris Agreement. They called for stepped up efforts to close the significant gap that remains to achieve that target. China's top climate negotiator Xi Zhenhua told reporters that on climate change there is more agreement between China and US than divergence.
Climate is a common challenge faced by humanity and will impact the well-being of future generations. It's becoming increasingly urgent and severe, turning a future challenge into a crisis happening now. In the area of climate change, there is more agreement between China and the US than divergence, making it an area with a huge potential for cooperation. With 2 days remaining until the end of the summit, we hope this joint declaration will be China and US's contribution to its success.
And US climate envoy John Kerry meanwhile said the agreement with China was a statement of support for a successful United Nations climate summit, with both taking a step towards closing the emissions gap. Kerry said the US and China had no shortage of differences, but on climate, cooperation is the only way to get this job done.
Now, the 2 largest economies in the world have agreed to work together to raise climate ambition in this decisive decade. Together, we set out our support for a successful COP26, including certain elements that will promote ambition. But let me be clear, this declaration is a step that we can build on in order to help close the gap. The United States and China have no shortage of differences, but on climate, cooperation is the only way to get this job done. This is not a discretionary thing, frankly. This is science. It's math and physics that dictate the road that we have to travel.
European Union Climate Policy Chief Frans Timmermans said it was really encouraging to see China and the US working together.
That's good news. It's really encouraging to see that those countries who were at odds in so many areas have found common ground on what is the biggest challenge humanity faces today. It shows that also the US and China know this subject transcends other issues, and it certainly helps us here at COP to come to an agreement.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson urged world leaders on Wednesday to go further in their pledges at the climate conference in Glasgow, saying the goal of limiting the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius remained within reach. He said a UN climate change summit had made progress towards halting runaway global warming, but more was needed to seal the deal. Johnson said there may not be any solution to climate change right now at the summit, but he expressed hope there is the possibility that summit will come away with the first genuine roadmap for a solution to anthropogenic climate change. He expressed hope that there would be some of the types of solutions that the world needs to adopt.
We're not going to arrest climate change right here, right now. That is just impossible. But there is the possibility that we will come away from this with the first genuine roadmap for a solution to anthropogenic climate change that I can think of in my lifetime. And the most depressing thing about climate change has been that it doesn't really look as though it's capable of being fixed anytime soon. I think what you could have is some of the types of solutions that the world needs to adopt to do it.
And with only days left for the United Nations COP26 summit, Johnson travelled to Scotland to try to chivvy other leaders to hand their negotiators more room to reach agreement on the thorniest issues of finance and emissions targets. Johnson's intervention in the frantic final hours of the two-week summit in Glasgow came as a draft text urged countries to boost their emissions cutting goals by 2022.
And the Glasgow Declaration on Zero-Emission Cars and Vans unveiled at climate talks in the Scottish city sees the group's pledge to rapidly accelerate the transition to low-carbon emission vehicles, aiming to green leading markets by 2035. Headline signatories included Ford and General Motors, the world's second most populous country, India, and major corporate purchasers of vehicles including LeasePlan, which rents 1.7 million cars in 30 countries. For the world's top two car makers, Toyota Motor Corp and Volkswagen AG, as well as major car markets China, the United States and Germany, did not sign up, highlighting the challenges in shifting to zero emissions. One of the COP26 goals is to secure global net zero by mid-century and keep 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise within reach. Countries are being asked to come forward with ambitious 2030 emission reduction targets that align with reaching net zero by the middle of the century.
We've been clear that the overarching aim of this COP is to keep the Paris temperature goal within reach. So it was clear that road transport, which accounts for 10% of global emissions, must be a priority. As a presidency, we have urged governments and manufacturers to commit to end the sale of polluting vehicles. And we decided to build up international collaboration to get the transition to zero-emission vehicles moving faster.
Meanwhile, a group of young delegates to the UN climate conference held a protest on Wednesday against a proposed carbon credit system they describe as worthless zombie credits. The protesters said the carbon credit system would not lead to reductions in the CO2 emissions.
Little Amal, a 3.5-meter puppet depicting a Syrian refugee girl, met Storm, a giant sea goddess, on Wednesday outside the COP26 summit in Glasgow. After walking thousands of miles across Europe, Little Amal reached the UN summit on November 9th to raise awareness of the plight of refugee children on the front line of climate change. She interacted outside the venue with Storm, who is 10 meters tall and made entirely of recycled materials collected from washed up marine litter. Little Amal represents hundreds and thousands of people displaced by climate change or other causes, said Tracy Seward from The Walk, the organization behind the puppet's journey.
Right, we are heading for a very short break. Coming up will be Web News Review. Stay tuned and keep watching DD India.
As the day unfolds and news and events take shape, we get you complete coverage of every news breaking in, tracking new developments as they happen. Midday Prime English, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. on DD India.
Welcome back after the break, and time now to move on to our next section, the Web News Review.
Right, so our colleague Anil Thomas is with us for the Web News Review segment. Very good morning, Anil. Over to you.
Good morning, Abhishek. Good morning, India. Well, I picked out 5 stories this morning for Web News Review, starting first up with HT, and it's about stubble farming that's once again, raised its ugly head across North India. There are close to 50,000 cases in Punjab, close to 7,000 cases in Haryana, close to 2,000 cases in Uttar Pradesh, but still no FIRs being raised. If you look at Uttar Pradesh, the AQI levels has dropped to 401. If you look at Punjab and Haryana, the situation not very good. And one needs to understand that stubble burning is one of the major concerns, especially when it comes to air pollution index and the air quality across those regions, especially in northern India, falling. And once again, farmers unabated, especially when it comes to stubble burning, continuing with this every year after year. We've seen this problem crop up. but once again this problem continues to rise, and pretty early in November we're seeing the numbers almost hitting 60,000 if you combine all three states together, with still no FIRs being filed in any of the states against the farmers for this particular crime. Moving on to our next story, that's from the Economic Times. This is about Dalal Street getting knifed. Remember, this is a particular IPO that hit the markets. It's a cosmetic brand, very much in its infant stage. But surely this particular owner there, Falguni Nayyar, now from Nykaa, is now the first female or the richest self-made female billionaire in India, and India's seventh woman billionaire there. Clearly her particular stock, the stock that she had on the market that was listed for around 1,125 rupees, having an 89% on the day of listing, closing at around 2,129. Clearly what she's done in a day, if in simple terms for somebody who understands market, what she's done in a day, maybe somebody who's like a stock market tycoon, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, took 15 to 20 years to achieve. So she's managed to do that in a day, and it's a super duper achievement that she has done. India's seventh woman billionaire, clearly making a mark on the stock markets with her beauty product and a line of products that's clearly taken not only India and the world by storm, but also the markets by storm. Shifting focus to a story from the Mint, the RBI governor once again red flagging or asking or sounding an alarm bell when it comes to cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency has picked up a lot of pace in the world market, slowly picking up pace even among Indian traders, and that's a cause of concern. According to the RBI governor, it's not good for macroeconomics and financial stability of the country, and clearly alarm bells being sent time and again. But I believe Indians believe that this could be the future trading point, and clearly more and more people getting attracted to cryptocurrency, and that's been a cause of concern. You need to understand that RBI had already red flagged it, but it was overturned by the Supreme Court, especially when it comes to cryptocurrency, and the craze for cryptocurrency in India has grown many-fold. But one needs to understand the government is still not brought a law on cryptocurrency, and that's what because the government is still in consultation with experts with regards to it. So clearly, that seems to be one of the gray areas that the people are looking at. Maybe it gets a green signal very much in the future, because many countries it's allowed. So as a result of which there is a buzz, there is a strong buzz that it could lead to a potential term for trading in the future. But clearly at this point of time, RBI governor once again red flagging this issue, and people who are invested in it need to be careful, because the RBI generally doesn't red flag things that could see a sighting in the near future. Moving on to the fourth story, that's from TOI. This is a techie. Remember, India lost that opening 2 games in the World T20, and there were a lot of people, a lot of memes, a lot of threats that were being issued. But there was one particular threat that was given to Virat Kohli and his family in particular. And that particular man from Telangana has been traced down, and he's been caught. The police have caught that particular guy who had given that threat to Virat Kohli's family, especially his daughter, his young daughter. And he'll now be brought to Mumbai. He's been booked under various offences of Sexual Offending Act, and now will be brought to Mumbai for further inquiry and questioning. My final story is from social media, and it's from Instagram. This is a particular, we all love to capture our first moments, and remember, all of us, including young kids, love pizzas. But this is a young techie who's got his grandmother her first pizza, and the expression that she gives after having a piece of that pizza, they're very clearly on the screen. She breaks out into a laugh, and she seems to be enjoying the pizza just like each one of us do when we have a bite of it. And clearly a moment, first moment that you would love to capture, a kid walking, an imprint of an hand, something very similar, a grandma enjoying that first pizza bite and breaking into a smile, clearly brings a lot of smile and brings a lot of likes on Instagram, also on other social media sites like Twitter and Facebook. And she is the hot favorite of the day, especially on social media. And that's it from me. Back to you, Rukma and Abhishek.
Yeah, thank you, Anil, but don't eat pizza in the morning.
Well, moving on now to other news stories. Well, the Archaeological Survey of India will hand over the rare idol of goddess Annapurna to the Vishwanath Vishishta Kshetra Vikas Parishad board today in a ceremony in New Delhi. The rare idol of goddess Annapurna, missing since the British era, will now return to Kashi. It has been retrieved from Canada with the efforts of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Uttar Pradesh government will take out a 4-day Mata Annapurna Devi Yatra from New Delhi that will reach Ayodhya on November 14th. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath will establish the idol by performing rituals at the new premises of Kashi Vishwanath Dham in Kashi on the next day, on the auspicious occasion of Devothan Ekadashi.
India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed 110.18 crore mark. Cumulatively, 110 crore 18 lakh 5,647 beneficiaries have been inoculated so far. More than 52 lakh 28,000 vaccine doses were administered on Wednesday till 7 p.m., out of which 12 lakh 31,937 people were given the first dose, while 39 lakh 96,652 were given the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine.
And now for some news from around the world in our next segment, Across the Globe. Let's begin by taking a look at updates on COVID-19 from around the world. COVID-19 has infected more than 25 crore 21 lakh people worldwide. So far, the number of recoveries stand at above 22 crores 81 lakhs, while the disease has claimed over over 50 lakh 87,000 lives. The United States alone continues to contribute majority of the cases of COVID in the world's tally, with 19 cases having crossed 4 crores 76 lakh and death toll crossing 7 lakh 79,000.
In Israel, a pandemic advisory board has backed rolling out Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine among children between the age of 5 and 11 years. Israel's health ministry is widely expected to accept the panel's recommendation and begin administering the shots this month. Israel, a country with 9.4 million young population, has 1.2 million children in the age group. Health officials have been doubtful the country could reach herd immunity without children being vaccinated. The country has more than 13,35,000 cases of COVID-19, with fatalities crossing 8,100.
And time now for the history of the day on the 11th of November to take stock of the important events that took place on this day. Well, every day, as you know, we bring you a special story on India's freedom struggle. Well, Abhishek, would you like to share today's saga?
Absolutely, and in which we remember our freedom fighters and heroes. And in today's saga of freedom, we will pay tribute to Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. We will also remember Gandhian socialist, environmentalist and independence activist J.B. Kriplani.
November 11th is the birth anniversary of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Born in Mecca in 1888, Abul Kalam Azad received a traditional Islamic education at home in Calcutta from his father and other teachers. Maulana was well versed in many languages like Arabic, English, Urdu, Hindi, Persian and Bengali. He was a renowned scholar and a poet. He adopted the pen name Azad as a mark of his mental emancipation from a narrow view of religion and life.
He was drawn to journalism and politics from a young age. Two leading revolutionaries of Bengal, Aurobindo Ghosh and Sri Shyam Sundar Chakravarti, inspired Maulana Azad. He joined the revolutionary movement against the British rule. Within 2 years, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad helped set up secret revolutionary centers all over North India and Bombay.
In 1912, Maulana Azad started a weekly journal in Urdu called Al-Hilal. The government banned Al-Hilal in 1914. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad then started another weekly called Al-Balag, with the same mission of propagating Indian nationalism and Hindu-Muslim unity. In 1916, the government banned this paper too and expelled Maulana Abul Kalam Azad from Calcutta.
Influenced by Mahatma Gandhi and his ideals, he joined Congress in 1920. Azad became the youngest person to serve as the president of the Indian National Congress at the age of 35 in 1923.
He was imprisoned several times between 1920 and 1945, including for his participation in the civil disobedience movement and the Quit India movement. Maulana Azad tirelessly advocated for a single India that would embrace both Hindus and Muslims while strongly opposing the partition.
कल तक जब तक कि आजादी हमारे हाथ में न थी, आपके मुल्क का क्या हाल था? वो अपनी किस्मत का मालिक नहीं था, उसकी किस्मत दूसरों के हाथों में। आपका अमन भी आपके कब्जे में न था, आपकी बेअमनी भी आपके कब्जे में न थी। जब कभी मुल्क में बदअमनी होती थी तो आप अपने तरफ नहीं देखते थे, उनके तरफ देखते। जब आपको कोई तकलीफ और परेशानी होती थी, आप उनके आगे मजबूर होते थे कि अपना हाथ बढ़ाएं। लेकिन आज वो नहीं, आज अपनी किस्मत के आप खुद मालिक हैं।
Maulana Azad took an active part in the Constituent Assembly debates, particularly those related to education. He believed that India as a nation should aspire for high educational standards. As the first education minister of the country from 1947 until his death in 1958, he advocated for free and compulsory primary education for all children up to the age of 14, as he believed it was the right of all the citizens.
He established the Board for Adult Education to facilitate education among uneducated adults. He was also one of the brains behind the University Grants Commission (UGC) and played a key role in the establishment of other educational institutions like the Indian Institute of Science and various IITs.
He breathed his last on 22nd of February 1958. His autobiography, India Wins Freedom, was published after his death in 1959. Azad was awarded the Bharat Ratna posthumously in 1992. It is because of his contributions in the field of education that 11th of November is celebrated as National Education Day.
November is also the birth anniversary of Acharya J.B. Kripalani, a Gandhian socialist, environmentalist and independence activist. Jeevat Ram Bhagwan Das Kripalani, popularly known as Acharya Kripalani, was born in 1888. From 1912 to 1927, he taught at various places before becoming wholly involved in India's freedom movement.
He met Gandhiji during the Champaran Satyagraha in 1917. He earned the title Acharya around 1922 when he was teaching at the Gujarat Vidyapeeth, which was founded by the Mahatma a couple of years before. Inspired by Gandhiji, he joined the Indian National Congress in 1927 and took part in the non-cooperation movement and the Quit India movement.
Acharya Kripalani was married to an equally dynamic personality, Sucheta Kripalani, another Gandhian activist and freedom fighter. Acharya J.B. Kripalani was elected to the Constituent Assembly from the United Province. He was the chairman of the subcommittee on the fundamental rights. In the Constituent Assembly, he spoke on the preamble.
He was elected as the Congress Party president in 1946, but resigned a year later due to the growing differences with the party members on the role of the working committee. Soon, Kripalani turned into a strong critique of the Indian National Congress.
Acharya Kripalani passed away on the 19th of March 1982 at the age of 93 in Ahmedabad.
And Prime Minister paid tributes to Maulana Abul Kalam Azad on his Jayanti. In a tweet, PM Modi said, a path-breaking thinker and intellectual, his role in the freedom struggle is inspiring. He was passionate about the education sector and worked to further brotherhood in society. And Prime Minister also paid tributes to Acharya Kripalani. Prime Minister tweeted, Acharya Kripalani was at the forefront of India's freedom struggle under Bapu's leadership. He had a great vision for our nation and worked to fulfill it as MP. He made immense contributions towards environmental protection and social empowerment, remembering him on his Jayanti.
And let's move on now to some sports news in our next segment, Sports Track. Well, in sports, we begin by telling you about how New Zealand have reached the finals of the ICC T20 World Cup. This is the first time that the team has managed to make it to the finals of the tournament. The team defeated England by 5 wickets in the first semi-final match played at Abu Dhabi on Wednesday. Daryl Mitchell played an important role in this victory. An unbeaten innings of 72 runs of 47 balls. Apart from Mitchell, Devon Conway also scored 46 runs. New Zealand had a target of 167 runs to win, which the team set in the 19th over and got it by losing 5 wickets.
And in ICC T20 World Cup, second semi-final match will be played between Pakistan and Australia in Dubai today. Pakistan have won all the matches in their group and have topped the team in the group stages.
Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of Breakfast News. We hope you enjoyed our show. And here's a quick reminder, even as the festival season continues onward, do remember the fight against COVID is not yet over. Don't forget to wear a mask and always take COVID precautions as well as that vaccine jab.
Absolutely, and here are the glimpses of the Chhat Puja. Namaskar.
Which conclude today. Many thanks for joining us. Namaskar.